Liar is just as ugly a word as thief because it implies the presence of just as ugly a sin in one case as in the other. If a man lies under oath or procures the lie of another under oath, if he perjures himself or suborns perjury, he is guilty under the statute law. Quote unquote by former President Theodore Roosevelt. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, in the Senate, the Committee on Justice and Human Rights now sponsors for the consideration of this chamber Committee Report number 49 and 6 approval of its proposed measure. Senate Bill number 1354, entitled An Act Amending Articles 183 and 184 of Act number 3815, as amended, otherwise known as the Revised Penal Code. The following bills and resolutions relating to the proposed measure were referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights. These are Senate Bill number 1330, introduced by this representation, entitled An Act Amending Article 183 of Act number 3815 as amended, otherwise known as the Revised Penal Code. Senate Bill number 8, introduced by Senator Vicente C. Soto III. Actually, they take priority because they were ahead. Entitled Increasing the Penalty for the Crime of Perjury, amending for the purpose of Article 183, the Revised Penal Code, and for other purposes. Senate Bill number 28, introduced by Senator Pamphilo M. Lacson, entitled An Act to Amend Articles 180, 183, and 184 of Section 2, Chapter 2, Title 4 of Act number 3815, otherwise known as the Revised Penal Code, as amended. And Senate Bill number 373, introduced by Senator Laila M. De Lima, entitled An Act Amending Articles 180, 183, and 184 of Act number 3815, otherwise known as the Revised Penal Code, as amended, increasing the penalties thereof, amended, increasing the penalties thereof, criminalizing subornation of perjury, and for other purposes. Mr. President, for centuries, perjury has been characterized as an offense against the effective administration of justice. The term perjury comes from the Latin word perjurium, which means false oath. In the ancient past, oaths were an important part of religious rites. In the Old Testament, prohibitions against those who give false testimony are mentioned in Deuteronomy and Leviticus, something which the current chair, is fully aware of. At around 1780 BCE, even the Mesopotamian Code of Hammurabi listed perjury along with murder and witchcraft as top offenses. The offense rests on at least two levels. On the first level, perjury interferes with a particular dispute between individuals, and on the second level, it impedes the effective administration of justice as a whole. It tarnishes the integrity of the justice system by diminishing the respect necessary in order to reach the goal of asserting the truth in a particular case. Perjury became an American crime in 1790. In United States versus Norris, the U.S. Supreme Court observed that perjury is an obstruction of justice. Its perpetration may well affect the dearest concerns of the parties before the tribunal. The court also regarded perjury as a pollution, an egregious offense, and an obvious and flagrant affront against the basic concepts of judicial proceedings. Similarly, in the Philippines, perjury is committed by any person who knowingly makes untruthful statements and, not being included in the provisions of the crimes of false testimony, shall testify under oath or make an affidavit upon any material matter before a competent person authorized to administer an oath in cases in which the law so requires. Under Article 183 of the Revised Penal Code, the current penalty for the crime of perjury is arresto mayor in its maximum period, to prisión correccional in its minimum period. It has a range of 4 months and 1 day to 2 years and 4 months. Based on the available records of the Office of the Court Administrator for the period from September 1, 2013 to February 11, the number of cases are perjury, convicted 36, acquitted 98. Ababa. Falsification, convicted 179, acquitted 311. As we uncovered during our committee hearing, a factor for the low case is the low penalty imposed on the crime of perjury. The current penalty for perjury is subject to probation, and the bail imposed is also low, around 6,000 pesos. Given the high cost in prosecuting a crime, like engaging the services of private counsel, and also the time and effort it takes to see the trial to its finality, there is no motivation to prosecute the crime of perjury. It is costly, time-consuming, and besides, they may not be able to get the penalty that they want because he could actually go under probation. Perjury does not only damage the victim of the crime, but also damage the administration of justice. This is most important, Mr. President. The law of perjury was created not only because the man lies or somebody lies, but because he practically impugns the time of the tribunals. It damages the time and efforts of our people. The main objectives of this bill are to deter, one, to deter the commission of perjury, and to create a culture of truth-telling. In other words, you lie, you pay. Salient provisions of the bill are as follows. What we are proposing is to increase the penalty for the crime of perjury, or Article 183 of the Revised Penal Code. Currently, under the Revised Penal Code, the crime of perjury is punished with arresto mayor in its maximum period to be prison correctional in its minimum period, or 4 months and 1 day to 6 years and 4 months. 2 years and 4 months, sorry. On the Senate Bill number 1354, we are proposing, and let me give a caveat here, we are going high up so that we can debate it here in the Senate. The sponsorship encourages debate in these particular provisions because there are many unintended consequences. Number one, increase the penalty to prison mayor in its minimum period to prison mayor in its medium period, or from 6 years and 1 day to 10 years. Two, that any person who shall incriminate or impute through false testimony or untruthful statements under oath or through an affidavit, any person the commission of a crime shall suffer the same penalty as that being imputed. Three, provided if what is being incriminated or imputed to a person provides for a lesser penalty, that what is provided for in the first paragraph, prison mayor in its minimum period to prison mayor in its medium period, that person shall suffer the same penalty as provided thereof. Finally, if a person responsible for the commission of this felony is a public officer or employee, the penalty shall be imposed in its maximum period. There are people who come here in the Senate and lie. We end up putting them in contempt. However, we should file cases of perjury against them right away. They give false testimonies and hamper on the administration of justice. We must make a statement. Do not trifle with us. Don't trifle with somebody's future. Don't trifle with truth. Di ba? That's the whole point. During our committee hearing, we really intend to make the penalty higher. However, a downside to this is that this might discourage people to work for the government. But then, that's why we encourage debate. And I hope the Senate will pay attention and conduct the debate. You may see this as draconian, but that is why we have these debates on the floor. And I hope that in the coming days, we can debate this to have more liveliness and more intelligence in the debate. Thank you, Mr. President.